Right. On yesterday's show, we picked apart the false narrative emerging from several prominent voices that Donald Trump might be unfit for office, but they can't yet vote for Vice President Harris because she hasn't given enough details about her policies.
Well, I mean, you listen to Donald Trump on the policies.
And, you know, you should be...
And you're like going, is this Lincoln?
Right.
Like, is this like a,
he talked
a philosopher
again yesterday.
king, a bit of Aristotle
I'm sure that was helpful
in there?
to you.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind when listening to some of what Trump had to say at his rally last night in Pennsylvania.
And Vladimir wanted it badly. That was the apple of his eye. Ukraine was the apple of his eye. But I said, don't do it. He would have never gone in, would have never happened. All these things would have never happened. But Ukraine now, I see Zelensky is here. I think Zelensky's the greatest salesman in history. Every time he comes into the country, he walks away with $60 billion. Billion! Walks in with $60 billion. He wants them to win this election so badly. Even before, as president-elect, if I win this election, the first thing I'm going to do is call up Zelensky and call up President Putin, and I'm going to say, you got to make a deal. This is crazy. What a horrible thing has happened just because, and it's our fault because it's a war that should have never been allowed to happen. We didn't have one terror attack during my administration. With all the terror attacks all over the world, we didn't have countries fighting each other. They wouldn't have done it without my permission. They would call me up to ask whether or not they could go to war with some other country. And I said, you can't do that. And if you do that, I'm going to put big, big taxes all over your country. Okay, we won't do it. And they'd call me up the next day. We've decided not to go to the war. We had no wars. These guys actually want these people in our country. It's not even believable. Working with left-wing nonprofits to inundate Pennsylvania communities, changing the character of small towns and villages all over our country and changing them forever. They will never be the same. They will never be. Do you think Springfield will ever be the same? I don't think. The fact is, and I'll say it now, you have to get them the hell out. You have to get them out. I'm sorry. To get them out. Can't have it. Can't have it. They've destroyed it. It's terrible. It's terrible to say, and it's a tough thing to do. What the damage that Sleepy Joe, you know, I'm tending to call him Sleepy Joe lately because I called him Crooked Joe, but now he's not like, is he, who's our president? We don't even have, do we have a president? Why doesn't he leave? Why doesn't he leave? Now think of it. Think of it. I called him Crooked Joe. That was very effective. It got him out of the race. I mean, guess what? No, we had a debate. And he didn't do too well in that debate. And they came to him and they said, you're down 21 points and you're going to lose. This can only happen to me. So I end up with somebody new. But here's the thing. All I have to do is expose her for what she is. She's a communist, okay? She's a communist. And this country is not ready for a communist and hopefully never will be, because that doesn't work. And remember this, and I just say this, if you look at Ukraine and Russia, but you know they say Russia. I stopped the Russian pipeline. It's called Nord Stream 2. Nobody ever heard of it until I came along. I stopped the biggest economic development job, the biggest job they've ever done. I stopped it cold. When Biden came in, he let them build, but he killed our Keystone pipeline, which we needed. He killed Keystone, so he killed, but think of it. And remember this about Russia. Under Bush, they took a lot. Under Biden and Barack Hussein Obama, has anyone ever heard of him, Barack Hussein, a lot of people say he's actually running the country right now. I don't think so. I don't think so. But some people say he's running our country. But I don't think it's Biden. Under Barack Hussein Obama, they took a lot, right? Under Biden, they're taking everything. They're taking everything.
Okay, in that, I guess what he would call the weave, There were so many disgusting, hateful things in there. It's hard to keep up. I know we're focused on foreign policy, but if I could just say his comments about Springfield. Yeah, Springfield has never been the same since Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and their violent rhetoric has wreaked chaos, havoc, fear, and upended the lives of countless people in that town. Ohio's Republican governor wrote an op-ed asking Donald Trump and J.D. Vance to stop, explaining the damage they have done to Springfield, and speaking up for the legal Haitian immigrants who live in Springfield, who add to the economy, who add to the society, who are good people. And it was very, very clear what is going on in Springfield is at the hands of Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and that violent rhetoric.
And by the way, speaking of violent
and lies.
Speaking of
lies.
rhetoric, I mean, she's a communist. We can never have a communist running this country. Yeah, the communist that is proposing $50,000 tax breaks for first-time small business owners. The communist that's proposing $25,000 tax cuts, tax incentives for first-time home buyers. The communist who is putting together tax incentives, private incentives to help spur 3 million new homes for construction over the next 4 years. Doesn't sound like a communist to me. You know why? Because it's not a communist. But it's interesting. Wall Street Journal editorial page. I talked about a column or two that I read over the weekend, and you did too. Very disturbing columns. But Wall Street Journal editorial page, again, been very responsible on Donald Trump's lies, the big lie, been very responsible talking about the lunacy that has taken over the Republican Party many times. It really has. And this morning, Ryan Ruth's political motives at the end said, we'll learn more as the case proceeds, but Ruth sounds like the type of person that could be triggered into murder by our ugly political debates. It's another reason for the country's leaders to avoid inflammatory end-of-days rhetoric against political opponents and about the consequences of losing a presidential election. Of course, Donald Trump said it's all the Democrats' fault. Dan Henninger said it's all the Democrats' fault. And then immediately thereafter, Donald Trump started talking about, because this is when he was attacking Democratic rhetoric. In the same Truth Social post, he says, because of this communist left rhetoric, the bullets are flying and it will only get worse. And he always accuses the left. He always accuses Kamala Harris, who now is being attacked for actually being in the center of being communist. But Willie, really quickly, we were going over the false equivalency of people saying, oh, well, you know, Donald Trump, he may be bad, but at least we know where he stands on policy. We don't know where Kamala stands, so how can we vote for her? We do know where she stands on a hell of a lot of policies. But here's where Donald Trump stands on policies. The people that said, yeah, but we know where he stands, and so we're going to vote for him. Zelensky, for Donald Trump, we just heard there, is the bad guy. Putin, a victim.
Yeah.
Vladimir Putin invades Ukraine. Who does Donald Trump say is at fault? The United States of America. He blames the city brightly shining on the hill for all the world to see. The city that has pushed back Russian aggression now since 1945. The country that has liberated much of Eastern Europe and is now trying to help liberate Ukraine. But Donald Trump blames America. He doesn't blame Vladimir Putin. He never has. And so for all these people that want to vote for him, are desperately seeking permission structure to vote for him, you will be voting for a man who says America is at blame for Vladimir Putin invading Ukraine. We made him do it. You go down the list. By the way, that sounds a lot like a certain historian who has been in the news lately and promoted, who said that in World War II, Hitler wasn't the villain. Churchill was the bad guy. And Hitler in the Holocaust, well, this person says it was just poor logistics, and they ended up deciding it was actually more humane to kill 6 million Jews than to let them slowly starve. Donald Trump talks about mass deportation, the villages that had been changed. It's like He thinks Shrek has come to the villages of Pennsylvania. Mass deportations, the crowd chanting, send them back. The antithesis. If there are any conservatives left out there who actually remember Ronald Reagan, Reagan in his farewell speech talked about what small business owners in Springfield are talking about, how immigrants revive economies, how immigrants make America forever young. Ronald Reagan said it, his farewell speech. But Donald Trump in this speech is talking, and the crowd's chanting, I think, send them back, send them back. And then he's talking about massive tariffs. He's going to end wars by slapping massive tariffs on products that will destroy America's economy. If not destroy America's economy, let me restate that. It will crush working class Americans and middle class Americans. And then he brings up the debate against Joe Biden, but for some reason doesn't bring up the debate against Kamala Harris, doesn't bring up the fact that he dodged yet again her request, her demand for a second debate. He keeps dodging it, Willie. Why? Because he's horrible on the issues. And yet there's this flattening. Donald Trump will say that. And then you'll have people, and we'll get to Tom Nichols on this, but then we'll have people going, yeah, but what does Kamala Harris really think about quantitative easing? And yes, I understand that she's going to talk about $50,000 tax breaks for first-time small business owners and entrepreneurs and family businesses and people starting businesses on Main Street, USA. But what are the long-term tax ramifications about that? Well, Donald Trump just goes on stage and grunts and says nonsensical things.
Yeah, and on the policy about some of the people you're talking about, wealthy Republicans, wealthy independents, a lot of those guys we've seen out in Silicon Valley who've come out and said, well, I've got to go with Donald Trump here. You just laid it out. Are you for tariffs? Are you for record-breaking debt? Is the Dow closing a little too high? The Dow and the S&P closed at record highs again. This big September rally that's happening because of the Fed rate cut, all the things that are happening with this economy. So there's some policy for you on the other side, too, if you actually want to look at it. Perhaps they're using those as cover for something else, for some other reason they don't want to vote for Kamala Harris. Tom